Hi, welcome to Bear Mountain. Today we're working on what we call our test garden. These are basically some old raised boxes that we test out new varieties, or if we have small odd lots of things after we've planted that we kind of run them in here to see how they will do. This bed today, what we're going to be planting is some extra Saharas that we had previously planted. And so we're just kind of filling in some blank spots. We'll talk about a little bit and show it some still pictures in the video, but it'll show you kind of what we put in these boxes. And these are all no-till boxes. We do not turn the soil in these beds at all. So what we do is we use a top dressing of about 2 to 3 inches of well-aged compost, and we plant directly into that. Now, the question is, what do you plant? Well, we raise most of our things on mini blocks. There are some things that we still use plug trays for, or larger soil blocks, but what we're trying to move to is 90% of what we do is we're putting things in that are germinated in a mini block and grown for a couple of weeks into a transplantable size plant. Now, when we put these in the ground, what we use these are just dibbers or dibbler sticks. Homemade, it's really high tech. It's a piece of PVC pipe and a stick stuck in the middle of it to give you a nice point in the ground. And this size here, being probably about 3/4 inch, and the wood stake on the end of it, gives you a very good, sorry about that one, gives you a very good depth for putting in the transplant. And it's not really a highly complicated thing when we use it. We just stick it in the ground, give it a little twirl, twist and pull out, and what you're left with is a nice hole to put a transplant in. Now, if we're planting a larger transplant, say like we had something that was in a 72 size cell plug tray or a 1.5 inch soil block, we use this, which is just a part of an old shovel handle, and it's just kind of got a nub on the end of it, and we would just stick that in the ground and give it a twirl and a twist. Makes a larger hole, and the actual transplant will drop right in. And so once you have scratched out how you want the plants to be laid out, and you've made your dibble holes, it's a really fast process of going through and just dropping the plants in the hole and moving on. Now, I know that in some cases in other market gardens, they have rolling dibblers and things of that nature, so if you're doing a lot of space, a lot of row length, that you'd probably want to use something like that. And Johnny sells something that kind of works in that way. So in this case, well, what I do is I've just got this little short section right here that I'm going to plant some rudbeckias into. Let me just cover up my divot there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scratch out a line of where I'm going to put these guys, so I can basically kind of have a line. And these are going to be planted, the rows are going to be kind of far apart because these plants are going to get fairly good size. So we're putting the rows, probably it looks like I'm scratching them out about 6 inches or so apart. And then what I do is I just use the dibble stick and go in and I'll put like 3 of them in a row. I know this is real exciting because people are looking at it going, wow, he's sticking a stick in the dirt. It's high tech. But surprisingly, it actually works fairly fast if you get pretty good at it. In these cases, I'm only going to put 2 on these guys here.
What happened to the end of the box?
Well, these are old boxes and they're going to be rebuilt this year. They basically kind of rotted out. We didn't use pressure treated on it. And these actually are about 10 years old. So it's not such an important thing that it's trying to keep anything out more. It's just kind of keeping the box defined. But we're going to replace these guys this fall. We've got, I think there's 10 boxes up in this area, and probably a good half of them need to be replaced. So anyway, once the holes are dibbled out, and in this case we've already gone through and busted these up out of the soil blocks as they were seeded. These guys are a little bit on the older side. They were right around the 1st of May, and here we are, you know what, so it's been about 6 weeks. These guys could have technically been planted probably about 3 weeks ago easily. But the roots are still good, they're still healthy looking. And so to put them in the ground, it's not very hard. You just kind of work them in. What I try to do is get them in a little deeper. As you can see, you can move along pretty fast. It's just a matter of sticking them in, green side up, and keep on moving on, right?
As a flower farmer, this isn't very many plants. Why are you planting so few?
Well, this is just a little test. We had a few extra. Saharas are always kind of like a little bit of a, for us, small group of flowers that in this case it's just going to kind of fill out a row and kind of look kind of pretty. And we'll take a few off of it. Most of the ones we're going to harvest are already over in that box. Some of them are overwintered and then we filled back in with extra. This is just kind of like I got this spare space at the end of the scabosia, so I thought I'd put something in here and make it look a little pretty.
Actually, the major amount of them is down below in a big row.
That's true. Not the Saharas, but the other rudbeckias.
The Saharas are down there. That's what you planted down there.
Okay. So that's it. I mean, it goes in pretty fast. Now, if you're planting a larger row, you can actually get moving along pretty fast. I mean, here's an example back here on this end. We had some spare Lysianthus.
What do you have here?
This is salmon pink scabosia, and it's an annual. They're a little on the yellow side, but we'll fertilize them up. They should look good in a few days. Lysianthus over here. This is Super Magic Green. And we're planting these, we're testing out a spacing that's really like about 4 inch by 4 inch. And we're going to see the scabosia and the Lysianthus can be netted, so as they get a little bigger we'll be putting a net on this part of the box.
We're also testing on this outdoor growing.
Right, we've previously done Lysianthus inside of a tunnel because for us, we start all our Lysianthus, this was all done by seed by us. So we didn't buy transplants. That's why you can kind of see a little bit of variability in the size. Some of the plants are maybe a little more advanced than others. These were just put in yesterday. We had some pretty good rain. These were all mini blocks, so they should be. We'll fertilize them here in a day or so, but they should take off pretty good. We've done this before with mini blocks, and it works out pretty well.
Eliminating the step of bumping.
Yeah, we
no room and no time.
No room and no time. Yeah. And if you turn around behind you, there's another example of, in this case, this is Marble Arch Salvia.
This is another new variety.
This is a new variety, and this was, we're planted into a very old compost that was sort of kind of, well, it's decomposed, and the whole idea is there's a mulch on top of the soil. We're probably going to get a bit of a weed flush in this because just the nature of how this compost is made, it really didn't heat up as high as it should have. And so, but still, we're going to get good insulation on the bed, good water retention. This stuff should look pretty good. These were transplanted about a week ago.
Right.
And
this is a test flower for us also. It comes in white and blue and pink, and it dries beautifully. So it can be versatile as a cut for filling and adding texture to a bouquet, and it dries and has a secondary function in dried bouquets.
Yeah, and what you'll see in here too is if you notice the plants are placed spaced really pretty tight. So that's what we're testing here, is this kind of spacing to see if it works out well. And if you'll notice, the plants are a bit on an offset. So it's not like straight rows like we did in the other box. So this is an offset pattern. And the whole idea behind this is, as these guys really start to take off, their foliage is going to overshade the box. So if we do have to weed, we're going to come through here probably in the next week or two before these things really start to shade stuff out. But probably, while we start looking at like mid-July, this box should be, pretty much shaded out. The ground should be shaded out by the leaves of the salvia, and it should give us a pretty good harvest. So the question that we want to know is, okay, if we plant that tight, does it impact the plant? Does it impact how much we actually get off of it? Does it, encourage disease or slugs or things of that nature? There is some slug activity we've noticed on the outside of the box, where the little guys like to crawl in at night and do some nip work. But they seem to only be really bothering the outside older leaves, and they're not really working the inside of the plants at this point. Okay, this is another experiment for us this year. Years ago we used to raise glads. They kind of fell out of favor. There's varieties of different sizes. These aren't the monster size guys. So we're trying to get something that's kind of intermediate, meaning, it's got a stem on it. It's like 1.5 feet, 2 foot, with a nice head on them. Not super big. These were planted also a week ago, I believe on June 2nd. And these are no-till beds. Now, the way we plant, when you plant a bulb with no-till, what we do is we'll rake the soil out and prep the soil, place the bulb on top of the soil, maybe nestle it in a little bit, and then on top of it, put the required amount of compost that would give you the right planting depth for the bulb. So you never dug anything into the ground at all. We simply just basically put a top coat of compost over the top. It gives us the right depth for the bulb itself. And these guys really wanted to start rocking and rolling. They hardly had any sprouts when I put them in. You know how sometimes bulbs have a little nub on the top. These guys had a very small one, and they're starting to pop up. We're going to have a weed issue again because some of the older compost we used underneath this stuff had a fair amount of weed seed in it. So we'll probably have to go through and just kind of scratch it out. These things are planted pretty intense, so once they get up and get going, they're also going to be basically growing next to each other. We'll change out this hoop system and put in a metal one so we can put some netting, Hortonova netting in here. That'll keep them from falling over. But these guys should be ready to pick by Labor Day if all goes well. And we got a varieties, I think we had like, how many varieties? Like 5 different varieties, I believe, of glad here that we're trying out. And plus on this box here, these guys are just starting to come up. These would be the larger ones of the group. And
but they're bicolor.
But they're bicolor types, yeah.
They have lots of different two-tone colors that should make them interested.
Right.
And the thing is it's an experiment again, because there's kind of a beginning renewed interest in glads, and talking to our designers, they said, oh yeah, we'd like to give them a try. So that's why they're in the trial boxes, just giving them a try again.
So that's it for the experimental side of things. We did plant some Lysianthus down there. We're going to do some small zinnias. I think it was Sunbow.
Sunbow, zinnias. Got some free seed from Floret, so we're trying some of Floret Sunbow zinnias.
Don't tell
up here.
We got free seed.
It came in with our gift bags at the Pacific Northwest Growers meetup.
That's right.
Yeah, so that was really cool. So, and they're orange, and of course that orange is such a popular color down here in Corvallis. So
Oregon State University, school
Yeah,
color.
go Beavs. So we're gonna give those a try and see. That's what this area is all about, is trying out different varieties, different techniques, just to learn what works.
Right. Well, this use of compost on top of the beds, you know, as heavy as it is, may seem a little weird, but in the longer term, as the summer progresses, we should be able to not have to do as much watering as you normally would. We should be able to keep the plants on a more consistent hydrated type thing. Like I said, we'll probably, because we weren't using, you know, the most weed-free compost when we started this, it's kind of a trade-off. So this year we're going to have to come through and kind of wipe it out. You know, one time through, probably scratch off the top and get rid of the weed seeds out of it, and it should be pretty good. And really kind of interested to see how the Lisianthus perform outside this year. So anyway, thanks for watching today. It's just kind of a update on certain things we're doing here on the farm. If you like what you see, please subscribe. And I want to thank you guys for watching the videos, and also too, check out our other playlists. We have various different things on season extension, etc. And I want you all to have a good day. Thanks for watching.